Good afternoon to you all. Today we're discussing a special project some of our Cedar Valley ASHRAE Chapter membership have been working on over the last year, taking place at a school in Ullo, Ghana, as part of a grant one of our members applied for that was targeting electrification and carbon footprint reduction. What came from that grant application was a partnership with a few universities, Engineers Without Borders, and what ensued was yet another success in a long line of what has become the reputation of the Cedar Valley ASHRAE chapter's reputation as a small chapter doing big things. This project, you might say, is an idea that went from the cornfields of Iowa to a school kitchen in Ghana. I'm Phil Greco, the RP chair for the ASHRAE Cedar Valley chapter, and along with Shelby Kayungu, our marketing consultant, we're going to talk today with the team that made it all happen.
Awesome. Thanks for that introduction, Phil. So let's kick off our discussion with Sam. Sam, you're a Cedar Valley Chapter ASHRAE member, and one of the persons who has played a large role on this project from start to completion. Could you tell us a little bit more about the origins of this project? And how did this idea even start in the first place?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this project is really stemming from a common passion. So about 6 months ago, some colleagues and I learned that we had a common passion for community development. And we really decided we wanted to take the next step of using our expertise from the workplace and leverage that to promote a good cause. So through some research, we became connected with the Engineers Without Borders chapter at Iowa State University and learned of the great work these folks were doing. They have a long-standing relationship with a community in Northwest Ghana called Ullo, and in partnership with the Engineers Without Borders chapter at KNUST, a technical university in Ghana, have been working to improve the local infrastructure there. So we reached out to those students, learned that this could be an opportunity for a great partnership. And one of their recent projects is design of a large clinic for Ullo. So we've been consulting with them and assisting in the MEP design of that clinic. And alongside those students, learned of the 2023 Decarbonization Challenge that ASHRAE was putting forth and submitted an application for that challenge and the associated grants.
Sam, that's good. So what did you decide to end up using the grant for, and how did that decision get made?
Yeah, so in deciding what to apply for with the grant, we were working around a tight timeline. The project would need to be implemented in the next 6 months, the spring of 2024. So we decided that a real prominent need of the community is hot water in the kitchen area of the local high school. So alongside the students came up with a proposal to install a solar water heating system for that kitchen area to preheat the water for the cooking process using solar water collectors mounted outside the kitchen.
Awesome. So before we come back to the solar water collector that you mentioned, I just wanted to ask a follow-up question on the motivation behind applying for the grant and how supportive ASHRAE was for that. And I know, Darrow, that you were instrumental in getting that application off the ground. Share with us a little bit. Where did the idea come from? How supportive was ASHRAE, and how did you chance upon this opportunity?
Yeah, so I care deeply about decarbonization and creating a better world for future generations. So those topics are always on my mind. And so it's the reason why I took the time to read an announcement email from ASHRAE. Sometimes those announcement emails can fly by you, but I took the time to read it, and it was about the decarbonization grant. And it seemed the stars kind of aligned because it was around the same time that DE was beginning this partnership with the EWB ISU chapter and the Ullo community. And so I noticed that this type of project we were talking about closely aligned with the types of projects that the ASHRAE decarbonization grant described that it would qualify for that grant. So I suggested to Sam and the team that we apply if we thought we could meet the due date, and Sam and the students really took it from there to prepare the grant application, sent it, we were awarded. So really, I don't think this would have been possible without the support from ASHRAE, not only the grant funding that was awarded, but overall their advocacy for decarbonization efforts.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Darrow. And so Tim, I hear you're quite the sustainability expert. Can you tell us a little bit more about this solar water collector and how does it work?
Sure. So I have a little bit of history with these solar thermal collectors from some work that I did in graduate school before starting my career. And yeah, so it's the basic pieces of a solar thermal collector are the large collector surface, which absorbs heat directly from the sun and transfers it to a working fluid. In the case of a domestic water heater, it's straight to the hot water. Then you have a storage tank that is essentially the same as a normal domestic hot water heater, but it stores the hot water. And then frequently systems will have a circulation pump to increase that heat transfer and collection to the water. There's two types of solar thermal collectors out there, and both of them were used on this project, so it was a nice comparison to see both types. One type is called a flat plate collector, and that type is a very tried and true and older technology. It's really just a copper plate that is coated to absorb as much irradiated sunlight as possible. There's copper tubes fused to the back, and then insulation, and then just a glass cover plate to protect that collector surface. Those are really great in that there's not a lot that can go wrong with them. They're pretty robust. In some areas, like the Midwest, where you have snow, they might not be the best solution because they are directly losing heat to the atmosphere, and it's all based on how much insulation can be packed into that collector. The second type is an evacuated tube collector. This one uses a series of refrigerant heat pipes that are encased inside a double wall glass tube. So if you ever think of those thermal mugs that have the evacuated section in the middle, it's basically a really long one of those. And then there's a little metal collector surface on the interface of the glass. And so those heat pipes that contain refrigerant have a natural convection loop inside that transfers heated refrigerant up to the collection bulb at the top, which gets introduced to the water stream and loses its heat to the water, and that natural convection loop just keeps going. Those ones can get super hot because of that double wall insulation, and it doesn't lose any heat to the atmosphere. It's really great in a place like the Midwest where you have snow in winter. In the case of Ghana, it wasn't necessary to use that style, but it does still provide a hotter collection. As I touched on, these are kind of two different technologies. One is really old, the flat plate collectors. I think Jimmy Carter put them on the White House at one point. So it tells you they were at least around back then. The evacuated tubes, I think, have only been around for about a couple decades.
Okay, and so the whole purpose of these systems is to provide water, correct, for the high school, and this would be hot water, and there would be some pressure behind the water that's coming out. Is that right?
Correct. So the original system that the school was using is just a big storage cistern that sits on about a 3-foot high platform in the area, and there's a well that supplies the cistern, but most of the water is just drawn out of the cistern by typical head pressure of the water. So as part of this switch over to a preheating system, which is really what this domestic solar hot water heater is doing, We ended up with more of a pressurized system, and part of the project included a pump to actually draw water from the storage tank into the hot water distribution system through these collectors too.
So Tim, let's just stay on that point for just a minute. And maybe Sam, you could jump in here. I know that there was a side conversation we'd had. Give us a scope and a scale. How large, how small, give us some ideas. How big is this system?
They can scale. There's various sizes of collectors. I think a common one is about 5 to 6 feet long by maybe 4.5 feet wide. So they're pretty. They can get pretty big. I can't recall specifically the exact dimensions of the ones we put on site. I know Sam saw them in person, so he can probably back up on that.
Yep, you're right on, Tim. It's about 5 or 6 feet long. It's a rather large apparatus, and the total capacity of the system is a 500-liter storage volume. So that equates to about 130 gallons, which is comparable to a residential water heater, a bit larger than that type of system. So the intent of this system was to serve a large cooking station that's used to cook meals in the morning and throughout the day. So the hope was that this initial installation could provide enough preheated water for about 1 meal per day, and it could be scaled for larger quantities in the future.